Right, so let us go on to our next contributor, who's going to tell us what everyone ought to know about home care and how it could be revolutionised, and that's Jane Townson.
Is it going to work okay for the filming if I stand here rather than behind the lectern? Good morning, everyone. Thanks very much for your kind words, Paul. I'm going to talk a little bit about the home care sector, some of the key features, and then talk about how we could change the game. So the United Kingdom Home Care Association, where I'm chief exec, is the professional association for home care providers nationally. We have over 2,000 members representing providers of all shapes and sizes. Our mission is to enable a strong, sustainable, and person-led market, innovative as well, to flourish across the UK, supporting our members to help people live well and independently at home. And our members represent the full range of providers in the market, from very, very small, sort of mum and pop type outfits to very large. So some of our smallest providers are delivering about 400 hours of home care a week. Our largest is delivering 50,000 hours a day. From predominantly state-funded providers to predominantly self-funded providers. So you heard from Martin Jones yesterday. Home Instead focuses on the self-funded part of the market. We have generalist providers and specialist providers. By that I mean live-in care, housing with care, complex care with nursing in the home. Quite a lot of the general public don't realise that you can be cared for at home, even with really advanced and highly complex needs. We have regulated providers, predominantly regulated, but also some unregulated providers, and everything from startups through to very mature businesses. We believe, despite the challenges in the market that Julie has alluded to, that this is a really exciting time for home care. 9 out of 10 people say that they would like to stay at home. And at the moment, state-funded care is estimated to support around about 850,000 people and maybe 360,000 paying for their own care. Unfortunately, at the same time, we've got quite a sizable unmet need. So Carers UK estimates that 7.3 million people are providing informal care, unpaid for their loved ones. 1 in 7 people in the workforce nationally, not the care workforce, this is the general workforce, are supporting, caring for people in their families, which is a massive number. And Age UK estimates that 1.4 million people aren't receiving any support at all. And this provides both challenges and opportunities for the health and care system. So just to say a few words about the shape of the market. So Lang & Buisson, industry analysts here in the UK, estimate that the value of all care provided in the home is around £12.5 billion. So to put that in context, residential care is 16 billion. Of the 12.5 billion, 9 billion is home care and supported living. 2.5 billion is what we call healthcare at home. So that's the high-end, clinically driven chemotherapy at home type services, and that is growing rapidly and very strongly. Estimated that telecare is around about 200 million, and then the rest is sort of day services, meals on wheels, and that kind of thing. Whilst demand for all kinds of support has risen, unfortunately, as Julie alluded to, central government funding for councils has decreased, and as the Panorama programmes illustrated, this has meant that councils are now, many of them, able only to partially support those with the most complex needs. And in the Panorama programmes, if you watch them, we met a lady called Pat, and she'd been in hospital. She came out of hospital and had about 3 or 4 visits from a Red Cross volunteer, and then she was on her own. And the film crew went back a few months later, and it was striking how much her condition had deteriorated just because she was on her own and she didn't have anyone to talk to. The cuts to the council budgets have also meant that few councils are actually able to pay what it actually costs to deliver home care in a sustainable way. Only 1 in 7 councils is coming close to the minimum price for home care that we calculate is needed to be compliant with national living wage. And not only this, but the squeeze on budgets has also forced councils to commission in a systemic way, some of them 15-minute visits, some of them are going to per-minute billing as well, using technology, in our view, in a bad way. But they're driven to it because of the budgetary situation. And as Julie mentioned, this has led to providers not bidding for contracts, providers having to hand contracts back, and also ceasing trading altogether. And last year, in ADA's report, 10,500 people, citizens, were adversely affected, disrupted by their home care provider changing or going out of business. These things in the market, though, the squeeze on council budgets has led to some changes. And one of the most striking ones, really, over the last decade is the strong growth in the private pay market for home care. So we're seeing strong development of people paying for their own care. And the franchise models of home care have been particularly successful. So the likes of Home Instead, Bluebird Care, Right at Home, they're continuing to grow. 15 years ago, Home Instead didn't exist. Now it's got 210 franchises across the country. We're also seeing a growth in more specialist services, like I mentioned, live-in care, complex care with nursing, and unfortunately still quite a lot of people not receiving care at all. And failure to invest in home care results in people going into residential care before they need to, and also going into hospital, which could be prevented. Julie mentioned the workforce. On the positive side, the growth in demand has led to an increase in the number of domiciliary care jobs, so that the number of jobs has increased by about 210,000 in recent years, and we're now exactly the same number of people working in domiciliary care as there are in residential care, 685,000 altogether. Julie mentioned a turnover figure of 30%. That's an average for the whole care workforce. Domiciliary care, it's actually 40% turnover, and most of that turnover happens in the first 6 months of employment. We've got a 10% vacancy rate. That's twice the vacancy rate that exists in residential care. There's just inadequate investment in training, development, leadership and management, and in pay, terms and conditions, because of the squeeze on council budgets. This photo is my great-grandma, aged 85, holding me, aged 1. And when great-grandma was born in 1879, there were only 60,000 people in the country aged over 85. By the time I get there, there'll be over 3.5 million of us, and it's estimated that 500,000 will need 24/7 care. What we don't know at the moment is what proportion of the rest are going to need some services. If we're struggling to cope now, what on earth are we going to do in 30 years' time? And purely selfishly, we need to sort it, because I don't want this to be a real mess when I get there. And crucially, I think we need to ask ourselves, what can we do to shift the demand curve? What can home care do to change the demand and the nature of what we're going to have to do in the future? In 1943, a Greek war veteran, Stamatis Moriaitis, survived a gunshot wound. He escaped through Turkey, talked his way onto the Queen Elizabeth, which was being used as a troop ship, and made his way to America. He settled in New York and eventually moved to Florida. On the way, he met and married a Greek-American woman. They had 3 children, bought a house, a 1950s Chevrolet. But when he was in his mid-60s, he began to notice breathlessness. He had trouble climbing stairs. He went to the doctor. 9 different doctors diagnosed terminal lung cancer with 9 months to live. Now, Stamatis wasn't really sure what to do. He could have stayed in America, had expensive chemotherapy to be near his adult children, or he could go home to his native Ikaria. He decided on the latter because he thought he could be buried in a mountainside overlooking the sea. Funerals in Ikaria only cost $200. In America, they cost thousands. So he went back and moved in with his parents. His wife and his mother looked after him for 6 months. He reconnected with his faith. He hobbled up to the Greek Orthodox Church every Sunday. And his school friends, they found out that he was back, and they used to turn up every afternoon with bottles of wine and have long conversations. After a few months, he began to feel a bit stronger, so he decided that he'd go out into the garden and plant some vegetables. Now, he knew that he wouldn't benefit from them, but his wife and his parents would. And he was outside in the sun, breathing the ocean air. Stomatis moriitis eventually died at the age of 102, defying all medical predictions. And scientists have studied, the remarkable powers that the body has of recovery, and also what it takes for us to live a long and healthy life. And actually, the evidence is all there. We know the factors that are important, and I'm just going to talk about some of them and how home care can have an impact. So, it's become clear that the single most important factor for determining how well we age is physical activity. And it doesn't matter how old you are, physical activity, particularly resistance exercise, can restore function. I met a lady who was 85 recently. She had a fall and she was living in a housing with care development, and they'd persuaded her to go to the gym. She'd never been to a gym in her life at the age of 85, and they got her there every single day. And after 6 months, she didn't need her walking frame anymore. And she'd actually needed her walking frame before she moved in and before she'd broken her leg. So, and the thing is, it doesn't have to be marathon running, and it doesn't have to be, millions of reps at the gym. Just keeping active, doing things like gardening and walking is enough to keep the body healthy. And home care workers already help people to be physically active, but we could play an even more important role in doing that. And in our communities, we could make it easier for people. I mean, how many of you like going to a gym? It's quite daunting. I know Julie did this morning, which is very impressive, but it's quite daunting. And we need people out there who are trained in looking after people who are older and disabled. The thing that I found really exciting is, when I was at school, we were all taught in biology that you're born with a fixed number of brain cells and they gradually die. Well, we now know that that isn't true at all. We're constantly making new brain cells all the time, even into advanced old age. And the thing is that if you exercise, you make twice as many new brain cells as you do than if you're sedentary. But those brain cells die off, they've got a half-life. But the thing is, if we incorporate those brain cells into the functional circuits of our brain, we keep them, and we do that by learning. So we need to encourage older people to carry on learning. This was a great story the BBC published quite recently. An 82-year-old lady, Hilary, who got bored of quote-unquote daytime TV and decided to go and study and do a master's in creative writing. And her husband, who's age 79, came out of retirement to go back to work to earn enough money for her to go to university. And she's now taking up a career as a writer or something like that. And it turns out that work with the right people in the right environment is very conducive to healthy longevity. The Japanese have a word, ikigai, which means sense of purpose. It's the intersection of what we love with what we're good at, with what society needs and what we can be paid for. And in Japan, they take this seriously. They've created silver centers for older people to do meaningful work, and they get paid for it as well. Well, again, home care workers, they all the time are taking people into their communities. We can create these kind of centres here in the UK and encourage people to go and participate. Another factor known to have a real important effect on long life is sleep. And I think this is particularly true for people in care homes, where often it's quite noisy and people are opening and shutting doors. But Matthew Walker's book, I don't know if any of you have read it, it's really quite a sobering book, because the research that he publishes suggests that for people over 45, those who routinely have less than 6 hours sleep a night have a 200% increased risk of stroke and heart attack, and also increased risk of Alzheimer's disease and other cancers. So encouraging people to sleep. In live-in care, we can do that. Also encouraging people, when we look, often we put people to bed and encourage them to have good patterns of sleep hygiene. Meditation, it turns out, has similar effects on the brain as sleep, and it also reduces stress, which we know it contributes to disease. So again, let's create opportunities for older people to learn to meditate and to practice these tools. The scientists, the neuroscientists that study meditation say well-being is a skill that can be learned. I think we shouldn't call ourselves social care. I think we should call ourselves the well-being service, because that's what we're about. Diet as well. In the studies of healthy populations, predominantly plant-based diets are known to be good for health. How many older people end up in hospital because of malnutrition and dehydration? And we can play a key role there, and there are services that, delivering food to people's homes. Unfortunately, many councils used to do that and have had to cut those kind of services because of budget constraints, but that's so, so important. And loneliness, I mentioned Pat in the Panorama programme. Loneliness has the same effect on life expectancy as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. In home care, we play a key role, just in our workers being there and being company for people, but also taking them out to different events, to groups in the community. In the state-funded part of the market, though, this kind of social connection work is really difficult because, councils' budgets have been cut, the preventative work has not really been possible. The 15-minute visits, you can barely do anything. But this is where we should be investing. This is what's going to help save the NHS lots and lots of money and make our population happier and healthier. And we already know that housing with care environments, life expectancy has been measured to be 5 years longer in women because they have the company, they have all kinds of things, and we're seeing really great developments going up with people living independently in their own apartments, but also having access to fantastic communal facilities which recognise these factors that promote healthy longevity. So there's communal eating places, there's libraries. This is an Extra Care charitable trust development in Stoke Gifford. They've got a council-run library on the development. They've got a gym. That's where the lady who was 85 went to recover her muscle function. They've got art rooms. There's a village hall there that the community can come in. And the day I visited, there was a playgroup there. And so the older people living on the development were helping with the children in the playgroup. This is the future that we need to aim for. We know that not everybody will live in these kind of housing with care developments, probably at best 10% of the over 65s, but they can be used as a hub, and we can invite people in who live in the rest of the community. Technology can assist in all of this. So technology can assist our citizens, it can assist our carers, and it can assist the organisations that employ our carers. And the kind of things that get me excited are the wearables that don't look like those awful old pendant alarms. Sorry if any of you in the audience make them, but watches that have alarms, that have two-way communication, that have geofencing, that have the health apps all built in, that can integrate that data and then connect it. Obviously, technology to help with activities of daily living, sensors on the ovens and Alexa really used there. I'm really fascinated with what the Japanese are doing in this area. So nursing beds that automatically turn into wheelchairs so people can get themselves out of bed and go to the kitchen and get a drink. Technology to help moving and handling. We won't be able to afford to have 500,000 carers, sending 2 carers to every person's home. So let's have some technology that can assist. As Martin Jones said yesterday, it's not about replacing people, it's about helping us to make the best of the people that we have got. And also technology to promote social connection as well, making it easy for people to talk to their families, their friends, to find out what services are out there in the community. And robots of all kinds. I know robots get a bad rap, but some of them can be used to dispense medication. So maybe instead of having 4 short visits a day, we have 2 longer ones, and then the other ones can be done through technology. This robot was programmed to help people with their physiotherapy exercises and also to tell people to seek, how to heat up and serve their food. And we're seeing a lot of technology for care providers as well, so digital care planning records. And what I think is exciting is the potential to integrate all of this, as Julie mentioned. So this is a research paper published by a French group quite recently, and they had 300 research subjects, age 75 and over. They had regular home care workers going into their homes and just taking the kind of observations that home care workers take, so looking at whether they're walking around, are they eating, are they connecting with their families and their communities. And they had about 10,000 data points as all of the different bits of information that were collected. The data scientists took it off, created an algorithm, and then used it to predict admission to accident and emergency department, and the algorithm was able to predict with 70% accuracy admission to A&E 7 days in advance, and with 67% accuracy 14 days in advance. So you imagine doing that at scale. We could then target interventions and help prevent those people going into hospital. And that's the thought I'd like to leave you with, that home care, together with technology, can play a key part in the government's prevention agenda. People want to live well and independently at home. We know that high-quality home care can extend healthy lifespan, enhance quality of life, and save money for the health and care system. We've got entrepreneurial flair in abundance, as is clear at this conference, and what we need now is investment in the workforce, investment in technology solutions and in data science, and more collaboration with colleagues in health to help improve health outcomes. Thank you for listening.